Have you ever pulled into a parking lot, put your car in park, and realized you have absolutely zero memory of the last 20 minutes of driving?
Oh, yeah. That is a terrifying feeling.
Right. You didn't feel the steering wheel under your hands. You didn't consciously make the turn. I mean, you didn't even notice the trees on the side of the road. You were just completely on autopilot.
Just a machine operating a machine.
Exactly. Operating a machine while your mind was like a million miles away. Well, today we are going to talk about a concept that is the exact opposite of that state.
Which is something I think we all desperately need.
Oh, absolutely. So if you are listening to this right now and you are feeling totally overwhelmed by the daily grind or the constant pinging of notifications or just that sheer exhausting rush of getting from point A to point B, well, you are in the right place.
Grab a cup of chai, settle in, because we're really going to take our time with this one.
Yeah, we are looking at a really profound, very short piece of source text today that tackles a concept called Chetna. And our core mission for this deep dive is really defining what Chetna actually is.
Because it's not just some abstract philosophy.
No, not at all. We're framing this as a genuine, practical shortcut to finding intentionality in your own daily routine. Okay, let's unpack this. Where do we even start?
Well, I think we have to start with that driving scenario you just brought up, honestly. Because it's terrifying when you actually stop and think about it. You are hurtling down a highway in a metal box at 60 miles an hour, and nobody is really home.
Right. The lights are on, but nobody's home.
Exactly. And the text we're exploring today uses that exact feeling as its baseline for the human condition. It defines Chetna as becoming aware, but specifically a really deep, penetrating awareness of our thoughts, our actions, and the deeper purpose behind them.
So it's basically the anti-autopilot.
Yes. The literal phrase the source uses to describe this is waking up from autopilot.
Which instantly resonated with me because, I mean, autopilot is our default setting, isn't it? We don't just do it in the car.
But we do it everywhere.
Yeah, we do it while making our morning coffee. We do it during meetings at work. We even do it in conversations with our own family. We are just like executing a program.
You nod, you say, uh-huh, you pour the coffee, you open the laptop.
Right. To me, defining Chetna starts with that sudden, vivid snap out of the trance where you look around and realize, oh my gosh, I am the one doing this. I am actually here.
What's fascinating here is the specific metaphor the text uses to illustrate that snap. It describes Chetna not just as waking up, but as an inner light switching on.
An inner light. I like that.
Yeah, and if we stick with your driving analogy, it's not merely the shock of realizing you are behind the wheel. It is suddenly having the headlights switch on and illuminate the road ahead in full, vibrant color.
Oh, wow. So before that light hits, you're basically driving in the dark.
You're just surviving. I mean, the brain loves autopilot because it conserves energy, right?
Yeah.
It wants to turn everything into a thoughtless routine so you can just get to the destination with minimal cognitive effort.
Which makes sense biologically, because routine isn't inherently evil.
No, at all.
Like, we need it to function. If we had to consciously think about how to tie our shoes every single morning or how to brush our teeth, we'd never make it out the door.
Precisely. The danger isn't the routine itself. The danger is when the routine consumes your entire existence. When you are entirely on autopilot, your mind is completely disconnected from your physical reality.
You're just a ghost in your own life.
That's a great way to put it. And the text points out that the awakening of Chetna is the exact moment where life stops being just a routine and starts feeling intentional. And we have to look at why that shift matters so much.
Why does it?
Because when that inner light switches on, you suddenly connect your daily actions to a deeper purpose. You are no longer just making the coffee because you made it yesterday. You are choosing to make it.
You're actually smelling the coffee.
Yes. You are participating in your own life. And that injection of purpose, it bridges the massive gap between merely existing and actually living.
Okay, so if Chetna is this profound inner light that breaks the autopilot, I'm sitting here wondering, where is the actual switch?
Right. How do we get there?
Yeah, how do we turn it on? Because the idea of moving from a hollow, automated routine to a deeply intentional life sounds amazing, but it also sounds like a massive undertaking.
You would think so, wouldn't you?
I would.
But this is where the text offers something incredibly liberating, though it might catch you off guard. It explicitly states that awakening Chetna does not require big rituals.
Wait, really? No big rituals at all?
Nope. It claims this entire shift can start with something as accessible as a simple pause and self-reflection.
Okay, I have to stop you there because my skeptical alarm bells are ringing really loudly right now.
I figured they might.
Yeah, I'm trying to put myself in the shoes of anyone listening right now who has spent decades building these ironclad autopilot habits. Like, we have been driving that blind commute for our whole
Years
lives.
and years of conditioning.
Exactly. So, is a simple pause really powerful enough to break a lifetime of deep-seated neurological conditioning? I mean, when I
Yeah.
hear about a huge shift in consciousness, I assume it requires a monumental effort,
Like what?
like a month-long silent retreat in the mountains, or, an elaborate 2-hour morning regimen with cold plunges and journaling.
Right, it feels disproportionate.
Hmm.
A simple solution to a complex lifelong problem always triggers our defenses.
It just feels too easy.
We're conditioned to believe that if a problem is big, the solution must be exhausting. But let's look at the underlying mechanics of what the source is actually saying by contrasting big rituals with a simple pause.
Okay, let's break that down.
Big rituals are incredibly dangerous to intentionality because they very quickly become just another form of autopilot.
Oh, I see. They become another routine.
Yes, you can mindlessly perform a highly complex meditation ritual if you do it often enough. You can go on a retreat and just go through the motions.
That is so true. I've definitely spaced out during yoga classes that were supposed to be all about mindfulness.
Exactly.
Oh.
Autopilot doesn't care if you are mindlessly scrolling on your phone or mindlessly chanting a mantra. All it requires is unbroken momentum.
Unbroken momentum. That's the key phrase.
It survives by pushing you continuously from one task to the next without a gap. Therefore, the absolute most disruptive thing you can do to an automated routine isn't to add a new, complicated task. It is to simply stop.
Wow. Okay, let me make sure I'm getting this. Because the big ritual requires action and momentum, it actually risks becoming a new autopilot track.
Right.
So by taking a simple pause, by just like pulling the car over, you're essentially starving the autopilot of the momentum it needs to survive.
That is exactly the mechanism. The
Yeah.
simple pause acts as a circuit breaker. You can't engage in self-reflection while you are hurtling down the highway at 70 miles an hour.
You're just focused on not crashing.
Right. Your brain is too busy processing the speed and the survival aspect of the journey. You have to pull the car over and turn the engine off. That simple pause creates an empty space.
A gap in the programming.
And only in that newly created empty space can you actually observe your own thoughts. You strip the routine of its power just by refusing to participate in it for one single moment.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because the text doesn't stop at this internal solitary experience. Once you take that circuit-breaking pause, once that inner light is switched on, this internal shift starts to leak out into the external world.
It really does. It fundamentally changes how we relate to the people around us.
Right, the transition from the personal definition of Chetna to its practical application in our relationships. And the text lays out this really elegant, almost mathematical equation for how this happens. It says, as awareness grows, empathy grows.
Cause and effect.
Exactly. And then it gives us the tangible behavioral result of this growth. It says you listen more, you react less, and you respond with clarity. I want to spend some time on the difference between reacting and responding, because those words are often used interchangeably. But here, they're worlds apart.
They're completely different neurological processes.
Yeah, because reacting belongs entirely to the autopilot state.
It's a reflex.
Right. Someone snaps at you at work or cuts you off in traffic, and you snap back instantly. It's thoughtless, it's defensive, it's usually aggressive. But responding requires that simple pause we just talked about. It requires intentionality and clarity.
Let's dissect the biology and psychology of that reflex because it perfectly illustrates the empathy equation the text presents. Why do we react defensively when someone snaps at us?
Because we feel attacked.
Exactly. It's the ego's threat response. Your limbic system, which is the primitive part of your brain, perceives the tone of voice as an actual physical attack.
Like a predator in the wild.
Yes. So on autopilot, your brain throws up a shield or fires a torpedo back to protect you. There is absolutely no space between the stimulus and your reaction.
You just fire back.
But let's look at how the pause short-circuits this. The text says awareness leads to empathy, which leads to clarity. When Chetna awakens and you take that pause, you become deeply aware of your own messy internal wiring.
Oh, so you see your own flaws, your own stresses, your own tendency to snap when you are just, I don't know, tired or hungry.
Hangry is a very real thing.
It really is.
And once you recognize that complex fragility inside yourself, you cannot help but recognize it in the person standing in front of you.
Because you realize they're just like you.
That recognition is the literal definition of empathy. Empathy isn't just feeling sorry for someone, it is the natural byproduct of intense self-awareness.
So when your coworker snaps at you and you have that inner light switched on, your empathy grows. You realize their anger likely has nothing to do with you.
Right. It's coming from their own unexamined autopilot state. They're just driving blind.
Which completely removes your need to blindly react. The ego doesn't feel threatened anymore because you see the situation for what it actually is, rather than what your threat response assumes it is.
That is the clarity the text is talking about. Responding with clarity means you aren't fighting their defensive reflex with your own defensive reflex.
You're breaking the cycle.
Exactly. You are absorbing the moment, understanding the shared human frailty behind it, and choosing a measured response. The text tightly links this inner awakening of Chetna with profound interpersonal peace.
It's incredibly powerful to think that a purely internal act, just stopping your own momentum for a second to reflect, can ripple out and completely diffuse the tension in a boardroom or a living room.
It's a superpower, really.
It is. And this brings us to the final layer of the source material. We've gone from the internal pause to the interpersonal response, and now the text zooms all the way out to the ultimate overarching philosophical realization that Chetna brings to humanity as a whole.
The realization that we are fundamentally connected at the deepest level.
The phrasing the source uses here is brilliant. It describes the shift from just living side by side to sharing the same inner space.
Sharing the same inner space is a beautiful concept.
When I read the phrase living side by side, I immediately pictured a massive apartment building in a busy, modern city. You have hundreds of people living side by side, separated by just a few inches of drywall.
Right, physically so close.
But everyone is perfectly, safely isolated in their own little concrete boxes. Autopilot tells you that you are completely alone in your box. The footsteps you hear above you are just an annoyance. The music playing next door is just a nuisance.
They're just obstacles to your peace.
Exactly. But realizing that we are sharing the same inner space, that is like zooming out and realizing that every single person in that towering building is experiencing the exact same human vulnerabilities, the same quiet hopes, the same late-night anxieties.
The human condition.
Yeah. The walls separating those apartments are purely physical and architectural. Emotionally, spiritually, there are no walls. So what does this all mean for us on a daily basis?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, this realization is the ultimate antidote to the profound isolation of modern society. I mean, the autopilot mode is an incredibly lonely place to live.
It really is. You're trapped in your own head.
It convinces you that you are a solitary unit, a protagonist fighting for survival, in a world entirely made up of obstacles and competing protagonists. That mindset builds those invisible walls you're talking about.
Everyone else is just an NPC in your video game.
Exactly. But when Chetna awakens, when you truly define it for yourself, you realize that the inner light switching on inside of you is the exact same light that exists in everyone else.
The machinery is identical.
To share the same inner space means recognizing that consciousness itself is a shared environment. We aren't separate entities randomly colliding with one another on our blind commutes. We are participants in the exact same human experience.
Which changes everything about how we interact.
This raises a crucial question about how we navigate our daily lives. If we walked around truly understanding that we share this inner space, the daily frictions that consume so much of our energy would just evaporate.
Because you can't be at war with someone when you recognize they are standing in the exact same inner room as you.
The text is pointing to a profound dissolution of boundaries. Fostering a deep, unshakable sense of shared humanity isn't some lofty, unattainable utopian dream. According to the source, it is the practical, inevitable result of simply paying attention.
Just paying attention. And that takes us to the ultimate promise of this text, the defining characteristic of awakening Chetna. It says that this realization quietly transforms daily life into something meaningful, calm, and deeply human.
I love the word quietly there.
Me too.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't loudly disrupt your life. You don't have to quit your job and move into a yurt in the woods.
Thankfully.
Right. The commute, the emails, the difficult conversations, they are all still going to be there tomorrow morning. But the texture of how you experience them is completely altered. You are finally present for them.
You are no longer enduring your life, you are inhabiting it.
Yes, inhabiting it. As we wrap up this deep dive, let's just briefly synthesize the journey the source material just took us on. It started with that vital foundational definition, waking up from our personal autopilot.
Taking our hands off the automated controls.
Yeah, feeling that inner light switch on so we can finally transition from a hollow, surviving routine into true intentionality.
And we learned that the mechanism for this profound shift isn't a complex, exhausting ritual that demands hours of our time. It is found in the radical simplicity of a pause.
Just a pause. A momentary halt in our momentum that allows self-reflection to actually take root.
A pause that naturally expands our empathy. By becoming intimately aware of our own internal struggles, we start seeing those same struggles in others.
We stop acting like cornered animals, reacting blindly to every perceived slight, and we start listening deeply and responding with clarity.
Which ultimately breaks down the walls of modern isolation, moving us from merely existing side by side in our separate boxes to recognizing our shared consciousness and our shared inner human space.
It is a massive, life-altering perspective shift derived from a remarkably concise piece of philosophy. And to you listening right now, the most vital takeaway we want to leave you with is that you have the power to begin this process today.
You really do.
You don't need a milestone. You don't need to wait for a new year or a grand gesture or some expensive mindfulness app. The only tool required to begin defining Chetna in your own life is entirely within your control right this second. It is just that simple pause.
And as you go about the rest of your day, I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over, something that builds on this philosophy but pushes it just a bit further.
Let's hear it.
We have spent this deep dive exploring the immense, quiet power of an individual awakening. But if a single individual pause has the power to short-circuit our defensive reflexes and transform a routine, isolated life into something deeply empathetic, what would happen to the very fabric of our society if we all decided to take a collective pause at the exact same time?
Oh, wow. Imagine the clarity that would follow that silence. So the next time you find yourself pulling into the parking lot with absolutely no memory of the drive, just remember you are the one behind the wheel. You just have to switch on the headlights.